everybody. I am, well, let me take this off. If I wear the headphones, I get an echo in my ear, and I can't concentrate. Anyway, I'm at the beach today. I walked about 15 minutes, walking very slowly from my apartment, and I got down here to the beach. It's pretty windy today, so I hope it's not too distracting. But I just want to talk a little bit about my early life, the little town where I grew up. I grew up in a town called Magna, Utah. It was settled in 1858, and it was called Pleasant Green at first. I understand they changed the name to Pleasant Green, from Pleasant Green to Magna, as when Pleasant Grove complained that the post office kept getting their mail mixed up. So they changed it from Pleasant Green to Magna. It started out as a little farming town, but the U.S. Army came to town shortly after the Mormon pioneers came into the valley. Because the government didn't trust the Mormons, they were thinking there might be some kind of an uprising. So the cavalry was sent to keep an eye on the Mormons. They were parked over on the west side of the valley. Well, while they were there, some of the soldiers found gold up in the mountains. Later on, that became a mine. Some guy named Jackling, I don't know all the history, became the Bingham mine for Kennecott Copper Company. And where used to be a mountain is now a big hole, because they took the whole mountain out and made an open pit copper mine. Well, as a result, most of the people in Magna are or were working for the copper company, working for the mining company. My family moved there in 1951. My dad was in the Army Air Corps. He was a B-52 bomber pilot instructor. And after the war, he went to dental school, and he worked in Salt Lake City for a little while, and then a practice opened up when one of the old dentists, I think he died. And so my dad got all his equipment and all his patients and everything at a good price. Hope the wind doesn't knock this over. Anyway, they moved out there in 1951. Just a little background. There are a lot of Mormons because, of course, the Mormon pioneers first settled Utah and kind of spread around the state and around the west. But then with the mine came a lot of people from other countries, from Greece, from Italy, from Germany, from Spain, from everywhere. I mean, there are a lot of people who came to Magna and to the little town of Bingham and Copperton to work the mine. And so in addition to the Mormon church, there are also a big Catholic, Greek Orthodox, and different religions. I was born in Heber, which is the city where my mother's ancestors settled when the pioneers first came to Utah. I spent my entire young life, though, in Magna, Utah. I think I was just in Heber long enough to be born, and then they came down to Magna again. The house I grew up in, compared to most other houses, was pretty big, I think. I remember my dad saying he bought it for $14,000. And I guess at the time that was quite a bit. But it was fun growing up in Magna. There was a lot of freedom. My dad had a hunting dog. My dad was a hunter, and he had a hunting dog, an English setter. And the dog's name was Clementine, I guess. And I was afraid of the dog because one time the dog got out and I was in the snow, walking around in the snow, and the dog jumped on me. licked my face, but I was scared to death. I was just a little kid, and even though it was not that big of a dog, I was just a little kid, so I thought it was a huge dog. Anyway, my best friend was a guy named John Duke, and he lived over on the next street. And my mom would walk me over there because the Duke family was related to the Murdoch family. Both had Hebrew roots. And so I'd go over with my mom to the Dukes, and John Duke became my best friend. When I was about maybe 4 years old, I don't remember exactly how old I was, but I wanted to go visit my friend. And my mom told me I could walk over by myself. I had never gone anywhere alone. It was the first time I'd ventured out anywhere. Anyway, I walked down to the corner and I went across to the next street and I started walking down to my friend's house. And there were lots of little neighborhood dogs, and they all came running up to me wagging their tails. But I thought they were trying to eat me, and I started to run. And as I ran, they chased after me, and I was screaming and screaming and screaming. One of the neighbor ladies found me over there, and she walked me back to my home. That was my first experience on my own. I got braver after a while, and I also found a way to cut through the alleyway to go in to my friend's house, or friend's yard, just a few yards from my yard. But growing up Mormon in the town, we went to a church house, and it was pretty old. It had a big stained glass window in the chapel. Next to the chapel there was an area they called the multi-purpose room. It was like a gym. The floor painted like a basketball court. And on one end was a big proscenium arch and a stage. So they used that for lots of different things. I remember when I was maybe 5 years old. I think I was 5. They had a meeting for little kids, and they called it primary. And for my birthday, they invited people having a birthday to come up to the front. And I liked it so much, I went up to the front for the next like 3 or 4 weeks too. So I went up there, and hi, my name is Benton, and I'm 5 years old, every week. Finally, they called my mom, and they told her to tell me to stop. But it was a fun experience going up there. There was a kind of like a potato cellar off to the side of the multi-purpose room, or the whatever you call it, the gym. And there was a sloping roof and some stairs that went down in. I remember I used to climb up on top of that and slide down. My mom caught me once. I had ripped my pants out on the tiles on the slanted roof. Anyway, to be a Mormon back then, to go to church on Sunday, the men would have an early morning priesthood session. Then after that, you'd go home. Like an hour later, they'd go to Sunday school with classes and stuff, and then you'd go home, and then in the afternoon we'd go back again for what they call the sacrament meeting. And then during the week, the young men and young women had called the mutual or MIA or whatever they wanted to call it at the time, and the women had Relief Society. So they really packed us up with a lot of meetings, kept us busy. I'll tell you a little more about my life growing up and going on a mission for the church and all the different things that I used to do. My experiences in high school. I think my kids will find it interesting. I hope you do too. So take care, everybody. It's about time to put on my mask. I have a mask. I put it on when I'm around people. It's made for Asian noses. My nose is too big and pokes out too far. So this presses my nose flat. It's uncomfortable because it flattens my nose against my face. But when I'm around people, they expect you to wear the mask. So when I'm in the apartments or when I go into a store, I always wear it. Anyway, I'm going to head back to the room. The sun's going to go down in about a half hour. And I'll talk to you next time. Thanks for joining me in Mr. Ben's World.